In this talk, I want to describe an exciting development that may transform our view of the universe and of reality itself, whatever that may be. The idea is that we may live on a Brane surface in a larger space. The word Brane, spelled B-R-A-N-E, was introduced by my colleague, Paul Townsend, to indicate a generalization of a membrane to more dimensions. I suspect the pun on Brane was quite deliberate. We think we live in three-dimensional space. That is, we can specify the position of an object in a room by three numbers. They could be 5 feet from the north wall, 3 feet from the east wall, and 2 feet above floor level. Or on a large scale, they could be latitude, longitude, and height above sea level. On an even larger scale, we can specify the position of a star in the galaxy by three numbers: galactic latitude and longitude, and distance from the center of the galaxy. As well as the three numbers that specify position, we can add a fourth number that specifies time. Thus we can describe ourselves as living in a four-dimensional spacetime, where events are labeled by four numbers, 3 for the position of the event, and the fourth for its time. It was Einstein's stroke of genius to realize that spacetime isn't flat, but is curved and warped by the matter and energy in it. According to this general theory of relativity, objects like planets try to move on straight lines through spacetime, but because spacetime is curved, their paths appear bent, as if by a gravitational field. It is like if you placed a heavy weight to represent a star on a sheet of rubber. The weight will depress the sheet and cause it to curve near the star. If you now roll little ball bearings on the sheet to represent planets, they can orbit the star. We now have confirmation that spacetime is curved from the GPS navigation rather a network of theories. It allows us to have several different descriptions of the universe, all of which predict the same observations and are useful in their own right. Remarkably enough, in many of the theories in the M-theory network, spacetime has more than the four dimensions we experience. Are these extra dimensions real? I must admit I have been reluctant to believe in extra dimensions. But the M-theory network fits together so beautifully and has so many unexpected correspondences that I feel to ignore it. would be like claiming that God put fossils in the rocks to trick Darwin into believing in evolution. So how is it that space-time appears four-dimensional to us, but is 10 or 11-dimensional in M-theory? Why don't we observe another 6 or 7 dimensions? The conventional answer to this question, which was generally accepted until recently, was that the extra ELLRL flattened is like a human hair. If you look at from a distance, it looks like a one-dimensional line. But if you look at it under a magnifying glass, you see the thickness, and that the hair is really three-dimensional. However, there has recently been a more radical suggestion that one or two of the extra dimensions may be much larger, or even infinite. Because these large extra dimensions have not been seen in particle accelerators, it is necessary to suppose that all particles of matter are confined to a brane or surface in spacetime, and are not free to propagate through the large extra dimensions. Light would also have to be confined to the brane, or we would already have detected large extra dimensions, and the same is true of the nuclear forces between particles. Gravity, on the other hand, is a universal force between all forms of energy or mass. It cannot be confined to the brane, but will permeate the entire space. Because gravity spreads out into the large extra dimensions, as well as along the brane, it ought to fall off more sharply with distance than the electric force, which is confined to the brane. Yet we know from observations of the orbits of the planets that the gravitational pull of the Sun goes down the further one is from the Sun, in the same way that electric forces fall off with distance. So if we do live on a Brane, there has to be some reason why gravity doesn't spread far from the Brane, but is confined to a neighborhood around it. One possibility is that the large extra dimensions end on a second shadow Brane, not far from the Brane on which we live. We would not see this shadow Brane because light could travel only along the Branes and not through the space between. However, we would feel the gravity of matter on the shadow Brane. There could be shadow galaxies, shadow stars, and even shadow people who might wonder about the gravity they feel from matter on our Brane. Instead of the extra dimensions ending on the second Brane, another possibility is that they are infinite, but highly curved like a saddle. Lisa Randall and Raman Sundram showed that this kind of curvature would act rather like a second Brane. The gravitational influence of an object on the Brane would be confined to a small neighborhood of the Brane and would not spread out to infinity in the extra dimensions. But there is an important difference between this Randall-Sundram model and the shadow Brane model. Bodies that move under the influence of gravity produce gravitational waves, ripples of curvature that travel through spacetime at the speed of light. Like the electromagnetic waves of light, gravitational waves should carry energy, a prediction that has been confirmed by observations of the binary pulsar. If we indeed live on a Brane in a spacetime with extra dimensions, gravitational waves generated by the motion of bodies on the Brane would travel off into the other dimensions.